Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is June 12th of the year 2023. Welcome to Empire State of Baseball, episode number 49. We are airing on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, powered by StreamYard. Well, gentlemen, we are in another week of the MLB season. A bit of a roller coaster of a season thus far. We have had episodes where we've talked about a lot of highs, we've had some lows, and we've had mixed bags where one team was doing great, the other team was not, then the next week it would switch. But this is one of those shows where I think both teams, all four of us, not feeling too hot about all of us. And Tom, I know you stuck is the perfect way to put it for the Yankees, probably. For the Met fans, we feel
Poopy.
dead. Oh, man, poopy for sure. But, Tom, how you feeling on this fine evening in June?
Oh, God. I mean, the Yankees are just a sad watch right now. It's real sad that, a game against your biggest rival, and granted, the Red Sox also stink right now. Just like the most forgettable Yankee-Red Sox weekend I can possibly ever remember. There was no juice, just sloppy baseball, boring baseball, not even like pitchers dominating, just bad baseball. It's not a great watch right now. It's not entertaining.
Accountability. Accountability. Oh, yes. The famous one word from Corey Favs last week on the Mets Minute. Accountability is definitely still prevalent in the Mets sort of things. For the Yankees, the injury bug has caught up to the Yanks to the point where now this team is playing below 500 ball after building up such good momentum up the AL East. And granted, the Tampa Bay Rays is a far distance away, but after the last couple of weeks of play and with Judge out, the AL East is done. AL East is a wrap, guys.
Yeah, I think both divisions are pretty much wraps at this point, at least in terms of the New York teams being in it. The Yankees, and I said it earlier in the season, they were an injury away from Cole or Judge of being a 500 team, and that's basically what they've become with Judge out. Without Judge in the lineup, they are the lowest scoring team in all of baseball. That's a problem. That comes down to roster construction. Not many teams are going to survive losing their MVP caliber player, but the Yankees especially need him in the heart of that order. The Mets, on the other hand, there's no one thing. Listen, Alonso's gone down, but they were playing like crap before Alonso went down. It comes down to the fact that you have paid these players a record number of dollars, and the fact of the matter is they are not performing up to their salaries. And there's no one person. We can make Scherzer a scapegoat, Verlander a scapegoat. We can make Lindor a scapegoat. We can make all of them. But the fact of the matter is the collective group has not performed the way that their salary indicates they should. And that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The only solace that I have as a Met fan right now is the Mets are not alone in this situation. Because if you look across baseball, all the big market teams, for the most part, are playing poorly. The Phillies are playing poorly. The Dodgers aren't playing great baseball. The St. Louis Cardinals are in last place. I mean, the Cubs are bad, and they're a decently high payroll team. The Yankees are kind of puttering about. The Astros haven't gotten off to a good start. So the Mets are not alone in the fact that they are not playing well. San Diego Padres. I mean, if I were a Padre fan, I'd be more pissed than a Met fan.
Yeah, I mean, the Padres, too. I mean, finally – that's a team. I mean, Mets and Padres, very similar in the sense that they were teams that were not really that great and all of a sudden started spending big-time money. So as a Padre fan, you're definitely in the same boat and maybe worse to an extent. But, I mean, looking at these two New York baseball teams – you said about hitting a team while they're down. Well, not only did the Braves and the Pirates hit the Mets while they're down, they took a sledgehammer while they were on the floor and really hurt them. I mean, we look back on the last week 11 of the baseball season. If the Mets make the playoffs, we're probably going to be looking at last week as the lowest point of the season and maybe where we turn that corner, rock bottomed out. If we miss the playoffs, we're going to look back to last week as a big reason why, because that was a team You were at 500. You came off a huge sweep of the rival Phillies just a week prior. Then you dropped 3. Then you go to Atlanta. You drop 3. And all games they were winning in each of those games late in the game. And then you lose the series to the Pirates. And then on the Yankees side, we go across town to the Bronx. It's hard to have to put up the offensive numbers when you're missing a lot of guys due to injury. And this team, you could see when Judge is on the field, that's an MVP player right there in Judge. That team is a different level when Judge is in that lineup. Now you're taking him out. I know Bader's out as well, but he should be back pretty soon. I heard maybe the end of this week he'll be back. But both teams right now, not a good week last week. And then they're, of course, they're going head-to-head. And I know we're going to get into a lot more of that in a moment. But before we dive into a little more detail, Mets-Yankees, just want to give a little bit of a recap of what we have to look forward to for the remainder of this show. Starting first, we're going to have our Empire Express segment, where we're going to be hitting you with all of the Mets and Yankee news and updates that we want to run through today. Very similar in the sense, again, it's a bad week for both teams, so would love to hear all of your thoughts on that, and definitely feel free to comment on the Twitter feed as well, in the Twitch chat on YouTube, and we'll love to talk about your thoughts as well. We're then going to get into the Fantasy Hot Corner, where our good friend John Hernandez will talk a little fantasy baseball with us. Then we're going to go to a head-to-head segment. This is a segment we did actually episode 2 last season, where we compared the New York Mets and the New York Yankees position by position to see which team has the edge or is an even split between the parties. So we will get into that and trick of the trade to wrap up the show.
Excellent. And, you can tell by the atmosphere, we're bummed out. You couldn't tell that the Subway Series is just tomorrow. One of the biggest, most watched series in all of baseball. You think we'd be more hyped up for it, but we'll get into those Subway Series ball predictions as part of our newest bit, as Corey just mentioned, the Empire Express. This is the baby made between the Bronx is Burning and the Queen's Gambit. We all bring it together and talk New York baseball. And as we mentioned before, Pirates beat the Mets over the weekend series. The Red Sox, the Yankees, the same. Bad loss to the Yankees last night. Mitch Keller with the shutdown performance of the Mets, gave up the 1 home run to Jeff McNeil. So tough Sundays for us. Sunday scaries were in order there. For the Yankees, they've gone 8-9 in their last 17 games, which is such a bummer, considering like their overall record over the last month has been nice, but in these last few games, including the Judge injury, it's just been bad stuff for the Yankees. So we'll start there. Aaron Judge last week at this time, we didn't know how serious this toe injury was going to be. Still, there's a bit of mystery. Obviously, there's some swelling that has to go down, but Judge did go on the IL for it. And a lot of pundits say that Judge could be lost for a while, depending on the severity of this injury. Tom, on the Yankees side of town, we'll start here with, can the Yankees survive without Aaron Judge?
No, I mean, they really can. They've shown that they can play better than they have been. I mean, they've been playing embarrassingly bad brand of baseball for a week now. They can do better than that. Guys like Rizzo could step up. A Stan, a Donaldson could step up. Glaber can wake up and hit a little bit, but they can't be a playoff team without Aaron Judge. The Yankees' biggest hope at this point is to just tread water, play 500 ball until he gets back, and then hope you catch lightning in a bottle and you can really get going with it. But they're not good enough. They're not good enough without him. And this injury it's another case where I just don't trust the Yankees. We're over a week from this happening. They know the diagnosis. There's no swelling that they have to figure out at this point. They know what the severity is. They probably just don't want to come out and say, listen, he's going to be out for 6 weeks to 2 months is what they don't want to do. So they're just kind of like, tippy-toeing around it. We'll see him in August, and that's got to stink. It's going to be a really sad 6 weeks plus of watching Yankee baseball.
You mentioned the return of Harrison Bader by the end of the week, and it looks like that he might be skipping minor league rehab altogether. Honestly, it doesn't fill the void still. Bader's a nice compliment to have in center field.
No.
There was that 2 or 3 week period where Bader and Judge were just world beaters against all the teams they were facing. Bader's not going to help solve the Yankees' current issues right now. They have a glaring hole right there in right field in Aaron Judge. Now, we did do a poll today on Instagram. Now turning over to the Mets side of things, this is our Empire Express, where we asked, which injury in New York hurts their respective team the most? And we put up Pete Alonso, Edwin Diaz, Aaron Judge, and Carlos Rodon. And Pete Alonso, with 55% of the vote, got most of the vote. Joe, do you agree with the poll here?
No, absolutely not. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. The Mets need Pete Alonso. He is their lone pure power threat in the lineup. But the fact of the matter is the Yankees lineup without Aaron Judge in it is, let's be real, lacking. I mean, they have an older Rizzo. They have older guys in DJ and Donaldson. They have Torres, who is kind of an average player with occasional pop. And let's face it, the outfield right now is a triple-A outfield. These guys are not major. These guys are what we call quad A players, between Cordero and Bowers and McKinney and whoever else they're rotating in. These are quad A players. They are the last guy on the bench on most good teams in the big league. So absolutely no question. It's Aaron Judge. He is such an integral part of that offense. And listen, the only way the Yankees can survive is basically if Stanton returns to some kind of form of when he hit 50 home runs. I mean, Stanton, we've talked about this at length. When Stanton goes on the IL and he comes back, he cannot hit anything. His numbers right now, he is 3 for his last 24 since coming off the IL, 143 average, 250 on base percentage, 1 home run, and 1 RBI. That you can't win with that. You can't win with that in a lineup with Judge. He is a shell of himself right now, and we know he's going to get hot, and he's going to hit 8 home runs in 2 weeks. We know that's going to come eventually, but he needs to get there quicker for the Yankees to survive this injury.
Yeah, I agree. And Stan takes forever to get back, as you mentioned before. It's funny how far he's just fallen off from. He was the perfect complementary piece to Aaron Judge if Judge goes down, and he's so far from the player he once was. It's bad news, Corey.
Yeah, and as much raw power as Stanton has, I mean, he's no Aaron Judge. I mean, Aaron Judge is the best hitter on the Yankees. He's the MVP of the American League when he's on that field. I'm not denying that. And you look at Alonso versus Judge, which one is missed the most by their respective team? If I look at the Mets side of it, granted, Alonso has been their MVP this season. But the thing is, the Mets offense was struggling with or without him. And they actually put up a 10 spot without him the very next day. With the Judge side of the house, you were seeing a team that was on a pretty nice tear, and then coming into the Judge injury against the Dodgers in that series, all of a sudden now they've tailed off a bit without Judge in that lineup. So I'm definitely going to give the edge to Judge as to he's going to be one missed more by their team. I do want to call out, though, a little bit with Edwin Diaz. So Edwin Diaz, in my opinion, I know he did get a few votes in our poll earlier today. Edwin Diaz was the MVP of the 22 Metropolitans. I'm not going to doubt that. He was the MVP of that team. You got to the 9th inning, you knew the game was over. And sometimes in the 8th innings, I know Buck does like to use high leverage guys in the 8th as well, not necessarily closing situations. In the most immediate short term, again, they've actually been pretty good. Robertson's done a great job filling in as the closer. Mets win 2 of those games in Atlanta if Edwin Diaz is there, because he's going to pitch, you figure, at least 2, possibly all 3. I know that you don't like to push a reliever 3 in a row. In a big series, maybe you do. But you figure they're probably going to win at least 2 of those games because the bullpen completely faltered late in the game. And no matter what guy Buck went to, and he went to the right names for the most part in the right time. I mean, you went to Ottavino, you went to Robertson, you went to guys who are typically getting the job done. But no matter what button he pushed, the bullpen faltered. And the Braves, every time it got to that 6th inning, after they blew it night 1, you have doubts in game 2. And it was the same exact script. Even in the 3rd game, it took a little longer. The Mets held on a little longer. But I was driving home. I had the game on the radio. As soon as Travis d'Arnaud hit that home run, I said, they're losing this game. They're going to lose this game by the time I sit down on the couch. And sure enough, I turn on the game as Robertson gives up the last hit of that. Oh, no, it was a Hunter, in the last game. So I knew right off the rip it was going to happen. So Edwin Diaz was sorely missed this week But I don't want to say his loss hurts the most, because for the most part, Robertson has done a good job filling in.
And then later that night, our viewing audience got to see what Corey Fav's bathroom looked like. So that was a great Mets minute. Corey's insane. He puts the nut in Mets minute. Absolutely. But that was awesome. So from there, the Yankees and Mets do start play tomorrow. And luckily, this off day, I don't think could have came at a better time. But I have a take for you, gentlemen. I think this is one of the most important Subway Series games in years, because you have two teams right now that desperately need to catch momentum. And guess what? Neither team's going to catch momentum if they split this series, which I think that's going to happen. These two teams need to sweep the other opponent to catch momentum and hopefully take that into their next game set. And for the Yankees, it's going to be the Red Sox at Fenway. For the Mets, it's the Cardinals at Citi. So what do you guys think? How important is this series for both of these teams, Tom?
I want to say it's important, but I don't think any series is important, like that important for the Yankees right now. They seem to tread water, like frankly. They are, both teams need wins, just to make the playoffs. You need to win enough games. So it's important, but I don't think the Yankees are going to be able to do anything in these two games to like spark plug them that's going to keep them hot for 2 weeks, where they're going to roll off, 3 or 4 series wins in a row. I know that's like a really lame and pessimistic take, but I think that's where we're at. The Mets, I think maybe that it could get them going a little bit. I think the Mets, at least for a fan's perspective, beating the Yankees has always meant a little bit more than the Yankees beating the Mets. So I think that can get a little bit of juice into Citi Field, especially if you sweep the Yankees and then you're back home, you're in Citi Field. All right. Fans are into it. But from the Yankee perspective, they're just, this team is talking about a quadruple A outfield. It's like a quadruple A playing team. So it doesn't matter. They need to get guys back, and they need to just tread water until then.
Yeah, it kind of feels like if one of these teams gets swept, this is just about the end. It's not so much for the Yankees, because the
Yankees are still 9 games over 500. Like they'll still
have the wild card, but it feels like a spiral can become more imminent. I mean, the Mets are mid-spiral right now and trying to do damage control, but it basically feels like this could really, really put a hole in your season and put you behind the 8 ball to the point where you might not be able to recover. The Mets, it's to the point where you might miss the playoffs, even though the whole NL itself is kind of like a crapshoot right now. The AL, you have the East, but outside of the AL East, the rest of the divisions, the Central, there's no wild card coming out of the Central. Right now, the West is kind of up and down. You got to worry about Houston turning it on at some point, but it still looks like the Yankees have a shot at a wild card no matter what happens this weekend. Whereas the Mets, it looks like, if they go 2 more down, that would put them 5-6 games under 500. I mean, we're at a point of total, DEFCON 5 panic mode.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Mets, this series has more importance, I think, to the Mets right now than the Yankees, because to Tom's point that he just mentioned a little while ago, the Yankees seem to be, for the most part, treading water. So even if the Yankees split this series, again, you're maintaining that treading the water pace until you eventually get a Judge back. I also think when it comes to the Yankees versus the Mets, the Yankees, they could probably go into the deadline, make 2 acquisitions, and it's like, all right, let's go. Let's rally. Let's get that first wild card, maybe make a late run against the Rays for the division. But with the Mets, it's not really that black and white, because with the Mets, the team as a whole is really struggling. Even your start, I mean, Lindor somehow is 8th in the league, National League, that is, in RBIs, but Lindor is not having a typical Francisco Lindor season. You look at the rotation, very inconsistent. And Verlander right now, it's literally 1 good, 1 bad, 1 good, 1 bad. And those bad are bad starts.
Well, I mean, look at the Pirates series. The Pirates series, he gave up, 12, 14 runs the first game. You turn around, what's his face pitch? Great. Gave up only 1 run. Mets won 4-1. The second game, the final game in the series, again, great pitching performance, but no offense. You lose 2-1. So, I mean, that sums up the Mets right now is it's the inconsistency, not only in the rotation, but the lineup itself. Just nobody's clicking at the same time.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing with the Mets right now. When one part of the team is doing good, the other part's doing bad. And then you have games, like look at some of the games in the Braves series where both the rotation and the lineup did a decent job, and then the bullpen blew it. So with the Mets, it's literally the definition of not a good baseball team, where it doesn't matter what happens, the team's finding ways to lose, all right? It doesn't matter what part of the team struggles. They're inconsistent right now across the board. And if the Mets, even if the Mets split this series, you're still treading water with the Metropolitans at 4 under 500. Now, to Joe's point, the one good thing with the National League right now in general, you have a lot of teams who were expected to be playoff teams who are still under 500. Phillies made it to the World Series last year, under 500. San Diego, World Series favorite, under 500. Mets, Cardinals. I mean, a lot of decent teams under 500. Powerhouses like the Dodgers, who a lot of people thought, yep, they're going to easily take that division. I know some of us didn't on this show. We thought the Padres. But the Dodgers right now aren't even winning their division. It's Arizona. Pittsburgh. None of us would have thought Pittsburgh, and there they are sitting as the central leaders right now in the NL. So this series definitely means more for the Mets, because if the Mets sweep this series, they're still under 500, and they still have a long ways to go. And even if they take the 2 games, if you come out, sweep this series, and then drop 2 of 3 to the Cardinals, it's still a terrible week for the Mets. The Mets really need to start putting a nice 8 of 10 win streak together in order to start to change that vibes with the team.
All right, last points I want across the board before we end the Empire Express. So we look at the probables for Tuesday and Wednesday's game. And honestly, if it was 2019, these are probably 4 of the top 10 pitchers in all of baseball. A little bit less than now. Obviously, you look at the stat lines, but you still get excited to see these matchups. Luis Severino versus Max Scherzer tomorrow. Scherzer entering play with a 3.71. Severino, who had started the season off when he came off injury, looking good. His last 2 starts, really bad. Shot his ERA up to 5.75. That is tomorrow's matchup. And then Wednesday, Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander, the former Astro teammates. Cole entering play with a 2.84 ERA, a 7-1 record, one of the better pitchers in the American League. Justin Verlander, as Corey had mentioned, it's on and off with Verlander. We don't know which Verlander is going to show up, but I'm a Yankee fan, and I can tell you which Justin Verlander is going to show up on Wednesday. It is going to be that 2022 AL Cy Young Award winner. It is going to be that World Series champion. So going around the room here, starting with Thomas, what is your bold prediction for the Subway Series starting tomorrow?
My bold prediction?
Bold prediction.
One of these teams looks good. That's my bold prediction.
Bold prediction.
It is a bold prediction because both of these teams stink. So if one of them looks good, that would be incredible. That's my bold prediction.
Great. Bold prediction, take the over on Cole versus Verlander.
Joe stole my prediction.
That's my bold prediction. What the over under will probably be 6.5. I'm going over. I'm going over by a mile. I'll take over on the 8.5 in that game because you know what's going to happen in that game.
Billy McKinney's going to hit a 2-run jack. Is that what we're thinking?
No, tomorrow's the 1-0 game where one team wins 1-0. The game with Cole and Verlander is going to be a 10-8 game or something like that, something crazy.
I don't know if the Yankees are capable. The Yankees didn't score 10 runs against the Red Sox in total.
Well, that's why they're going to score the 8.
Yep, and I'll tell you,
they scored 8 runs against the Red Sox in total. They scored 7, I think.
Listen, the Mets have an advantage in the series because of the game 1 matchup. Listen, game 2 is a toss-up. There is no person on this planet who could say that game is not a toss-up between Verlander and Cole. Game 1, the Mets should have an advantage. Scherzer, except for 1 inning against the Braves, did look good his last time out, his last 3 times out, and he has been going in the right direction, whereas Severino is going in the wrong direction. So the Mets should have an advantage in game 1. Game 2 is a flip of the coin. I mean, I don't have any idea. So if you were to bet money, you would probably lean Mets just because they have the advantage in game 1, and it's a 50-50 in game 2.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Joe stole my bold prediction because I was going to say the exact same thing. That game 2 is going to be the over because that's a game. Looking at that matchup, you say, "Oh wow, that's going to be a 2-1 victory either way." And I was thinking the same thing last series
Yankees
against the
might not get
Braves.
2 hits.
Listen, the Yankees might not get 2 hits, but that'll be one of the games where Verlander walks 4 guys. The Mets have a couple of errors, and before you know it, 2 hits somehow gets you 8 runs. So I'm going to go with Joe on that prediction. And the way I look at it is last week, I didn't do it, but I almost bet a couple of exact scores like 2-1 Braves, 3-1 Braves. And thankfully I didn't because that game was 13-10 finals. So complete opposite of what I expected.
Francisco Alvarez is going to club 2 home runs against Gerrit Cole on Wednesday.
Oh, I hope so.
Cole reverse juju. Ball prediction. Alvarez has been hitting the cover off the ball, one of the best offensive catches in the last month.
I had for the record, I had the boldest prediction.
Great, Tom. I'm happy for you. All right. Gotta love your content strategizing and creative ideas here. All righty. Let's move on. And before we get more into the show here, we do have the Fantasy Hot Corner coming up. But Joe's one of our biggest representatives of Twitter. Him and Corey have done a great job with growing Twitter here. But Joe, what do you got on our Twitter people here?
All right. We are now airing live on Twitter with 2,000 followers and growing. Big shout out to all our followers on Twitter. They've been fantastic growing this channel and growing our podcast here and our ESB family. So hats off to them. We've hit 2,000. We're aiming to get to 3,000 by the end of the season. So we're going to see as far as that goes. But you can follow us at ESB Podcast, at Corey, at G Gory, myself at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom at T Wospil, all on Twitter. Don't forget to interact, leave a comment, like, retweets, and interact with us as we watch the games on a daily basis.
Yes, and as Joe had mentioned last week also on the show, we do have issues with our Twitter live chat where we're not able to stream the live chat here as we do here with YouTube and Twitch. But we will be looking at Twitter every so often to catch your live comments there. So keep commenting. And if you want to jump into more live chat where there's going to be a broader viewership, jump over to YouTube and Twitch as well. But that is Twitter. And now we have the Fantasy Hot Corner. And Jonathan Hernandez, unfortunately, Tom did not want to join us live today, but he did submit a video, though, because we do love video submissions as well. So we're going to go to John with the Fantasy Hot Corner. More importantly, starting with the player spotlight. Take it away, John.
What's going on, ESB crew? I'm back for another Fantasy Hot Corner. Hey, listen, sometimes this segment's easy and you just go with the obvious choice. Christopher Morel a few weeks ago was the obvious choice for the spotlight. This week, the obvious choice is Elly De La Cruz. Since being called up by the Reds, he's just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. The Reds are hot, they're climbing up the standings, and De La Cruz is the obvious pickup for your fantasy team. Now listen, he's still a 21-year-old kid, but the tools are there for a successful player, and if he starts giving you the fantasy production, you're going to be very happy with what you're getting. Keep in mind, the strikeouts can be a little bit concerning, as Joe Pugliese loves to point out, but stick with him. Let's see what happens. Give it a few weeks.
Are the strikeouts concerning there, Joe Pugliese? Are the strikeouts concerning?
No, not yet. He's young. He's eager. That's going to come with it. But this kid is something else. I mean, he has all the tools to succeed. He kind of reminds me of O'Neal Cruz a little bit. In the
little bit.
A little bit.
A carbon clone copy.
Yeah, they're clone copies. But De La Cruz has a little bit more. He looks more like a baseball player than O'Neal Cruz. O'Neal Cruz looks like you took him off another sport, handed him a bat and a glove, and said, "Go out there and just let your tools shine." Whereas Elly De La Cruz is at the point where he looks like a refined baseball player. He looks like a refined hitter. He looks like the kind of guy who's been playing baseball since he was in diapers. And I think that's a big difference. I think you're going to see the difference. Listen, if the K rate continues, it will eventually be an issue as pitchers adjust, but for now, He's electric. He hits balls a mile. He runs as quick as anybody of his size I've ever seen. He's got an absolute cannon. I think one of his throws was clocked at 101 across the diamond. He is a special player, and Reds fans should be absolutely thrilled that he's on their team.
Yeah, I completely echo those words. Completely.
I'll just say, I'm thrilled. I picked him up last Sunday, like not yesterday, but a couple days before he got called up. So I'm just gonna pat myself on the back there. Me and John Hernandez, as always, in lockstep. So yeah, he's been a good member of one of my fantasy squads. So very proud member of his fan club as well.
Yeah, love the excitement that any of these players bring. Love the youth here. Ellie hit an absolute moonshot for his first home run. That was that a rookie record for longest first career home run or something?
I don't know.
I thought there was someone that had like a 485 once or something like that. I think
Statcast is also like a crock of shit, so I don't trust any.
That tells me that's a good. I see Core Ryan in the chat. That might be a good core curriculum question for.
I'm sure he's got it locked and loaded. Core curriculum's going to be back next week, but we're going to stick with our segment right now with Fantasy Hot Corner because we have a second pick, and it is John's pickup of the week. So let's see what John has for us.
This week for the fantasy pickup, we're going down to Atlanta, which pains me a little bit to say. AJ Smith-Shawver is the pickup for the week. He's owned in about 13% of ESPN leagues right now. 11% increase over the last couple of days, which means that people are catching on to it. He just had a pretty good start against the Nationals. He's got another nice start coming up this week against the Tigers. Listen, Atlanta's one of those teams. Atlanta, Houston, the Dodgers, some of these teams just produce young talent from out of nowhere. He's already got some comps to Max Fried and Spencer Strider, which probably a little bit too early, but listen, you never know with pitching. Sometimes they just come out of nowhere and they're productive and they can help you out. So if you can go grab Smith-Shawver, go pick him up and throw him in your lineup this week, especially for his start on Wednesday.
I always like those hyphenated long names there that, that curve around like a rainbow on the back of a jersey. AJ Smith-Shawver joining a list of like Jared Saltalamacchi and all those folks. But I'm not talking about last names. Smith-Shawver with 2 appearances there. A good line. He's got a good start and a good matchup lined up against Detroit, I believe what John said there. What are your thoughts on AJ Smith-Shawver, Corey?
Listen, I actually agree. I think it's a pretty decent pickup right now. The Braves are a hot team, too. So, listen, if you're in a team that has wins as a category, it's not a bad gamble there. Try to get that stat with a good Atlanta Braves team. I actually did check in my Yahoo league to see if I could pick up, but he was already taken by Bats in that league. So, but I do like the recommendation. If he is available in your league, I would take the gamble.
Braves doing over there, man? It just seems like, again, one of the maybe 3 teams with like the Guardians, the Rays, they can send out pitching, lose pitching to injury, never see an ace pitcher ever again, and they can replace that pitcher like that. It's unreal. You see what Bryce Elder's doing, whose name hasn't mentioned that much during the show, and Elder's putting in potentially a Cy Young campaign along with his buddy Spencer Strider. So I don't know what's going on in Atlanta, Tom, but I like what I'm seeing.
There's some organizations that are just they have more strengths and they really can focus on areas like that. It's like the Dodgers just can keep like putting out good players. It seems like they just keep bringing like a guy up and they hit. So I don't know. There's organizations run a lot better than both of our favorite organizations, and they're able to do stuff like this, and it's makes me pretty jealous.
Yeah, listen, the Braves seem to be churning out young pitcher after young pitcher. I don't know about the comparison.
Hitters too, though.
Yeah, they've been churning out everybody. They've done a fantastic job. I don't know about the comparison to Fried and Strider. I mean, they're kind of 2 completely different pitchers, but one's a flamethrower and the other is kind of not
his words. He said it was the words of other pundits.
Can we bring up that list of former picks from John for a pickup?
All right, well, forgive the gap. That's usually where the video resides, but
we need a heat check on the these are the fantasy spotlight picks.
Let's take a look.
Okay. We got IL minors. Does anybody know if Vince Velasquez is alive?
Done.
Holderman's obviously been good, although I don't know who would have not had him on their roster. And we gotta get a pulse check on Jared Walsh since Johnson. So we got to
ran into one yesterday.
We got to keep it in context.
Yes,
Wow.
but
I can't believe you're doing John Hernandez like that. How disrespectful.
I can't forgive John for what he did to poor Christopher Morel, because
Morel
was the best player in the universe.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with Morel, but real quick before we jump off, I think the New York Mets could definitely use a guy like Colin Holderman and maybe you dump off Vogelback to the Pirates to get a guy like Holderman back. Talk about a trade that looks like a pretty good win on the Pirates side. Although Vogelback was good last year, but we definitely could use him this year. Holderman, that is.
Designate the guy for assignment. For God's sake, what are we doing? All right, Thomas, we're going to get into our big bit in a little bit. We do have a few fans here on Twitch. What's the deal with our Twitch stream?
Yeah, so hopefully you are watching us live, whether that is on YouTube, on Twitter, or on Twitch. If you are following us on, watching us on Twitch, make sure you're subscribing to Empire State of Baseball. You also, if you're watching us live on YouTube, subscribe to us there. You could interact with us live on the show. Notifications right there from Corey Favs, showing us what's up with that. I think as Corey mentioned before, Twitter, you can tweet us during the show. It doesn't necessarily show up in the comment section, but both YouTube and Twitch does. So follow there and get involved with the show.
I want to do the same thing that Corey was trying to do, and I had so many notifications I had to clear before that, and Corey just beat me to it. So I'm glad you just did it, Corey. Very good. Yeah,
did you get the shipping confirmation for your Roman order? Is that? You want to show that off?
No, but I have a DoorDash order that's been sitting on the front porch for the last 2 hours.
It's been raining. You gotta have a cold burrito.
Sushi, Thomas. Sushi. All right, head to head. Let's get into it. We haven't done this bit since, let's go back to April the 11th of 2022. That was a long time ago. That was episode 2. And a lot has happened since then, but we're ahead of the Subway Series. And since the Subway Series is tomorrow, there's no perfect time to bring back this segment. So for our head to head, we're just going to do comparison, position by position matchups of the Mets and Yankees. We are going to just take the active roster right now. We're not going to talk about the injured players that we had in our poll earlier and that we talked about on the show earlier. We're just going based on the active rosters entering tomorrow's game. So you can reference to roster resource for the Yankees and Mets depth charts, because that's what we're doing tonight. So let's start it off with the manager. We'll go non-player first with Buck Showalter or Aaron Boone, starting with Corey.
I'll tell you what, if we were to do this segment at the start of the season, I think it would be a no contest, and I'd be all in on the Buck Showalter train. But I'm actually going to give this one as an even push right now. Gun to my head, I would still take Buck Showalter, I think. But right now, over the last couple of weeks, it seems like whatever move Buck makes is not working out. Again, at the end of the day, the players do have to do their jobs, but it's just an organizational thing. So I'm going to give it an even push. I also don't like that Buck seems to have a very big reluctance to play the rookies. Thankfully, guys like Alvarez, Beatty now are really playing more regularly. But right now, I think Boone's done a decent job with the Yankees. I'm going to say even push going into this week.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a Buck supporter. I always have been. I don't think Buck's fallen off. His temperament maybe is a little lighter than it used to be. He's not getting himself thrown out of ball games and things like that. But maybe the Mets need a little bit more life in that case. I still think he has a tactical advantage over Aaron Boone just because of his experience. And listen, I got to give Boone credit. He has kept this team together. Boone gets the most out of no-name players than anyone I've ever seen. And I don't know if that's a Yankee thing or that's a Boone thing. But, how many times are we going to see the Frenchie Corderos, the Bowers of the world come up and produce for the Yankees, whether it be a week or two or a month or whatever it is to fill the gap. So Boone must be doing something right. A slight edge to Buck. I know Met fans are on him. It's not his fault. He's just run out of options. still tactically, he's a better manager, I think, than Aaron.
Guys, I don't think this is close. It's Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone is doing a significantly better job this year than Buck Showalter has. The Yankees have so many injuries and are 9 games over 500, where the Mets might have some things going on, with Alonso hurt right now, and they're 4 under in a easier, softer division. It's not even close. Boone is doing a much better job. I have been a Boone supporter. I'll continue to be a Boone supporter. I think he brings fire. He'll get himself thrown out of games. He defends his players. I don't know what strategic moves Buck is doing out there when he's basically falling asleep on the bench. At least Aaron's awake. We know that. He gets out there. No, he'll argue with an umpire, throw some gum maybe, wear some sweet aviators. Buck is just an old man who's falling asleep in his rocking chair.
I think that's unfair accusations, Rich.
I don't. What's unfair about it?
At any other point, I would have said Buck, and then I go back to the segment we did 2 weeks ago called 3 Up, 3 Down, where I defended Aaron Boone and said, probably for the first time ever on the show, and said that was the most improved position on the Yankees. Listen, at the end of the day, Boone can only manage with the cards he's been dealt with, and there's been a lot of games where I questioned some moves he made and it panned out. And there were some moves that he didn't make that didn't work out for the Yankees. At the end of the day, I'm still sticking with the manager, Aaron Boone, there. He's got a bad hand right now. A lot of the games lately have not been on the manager there. I'm going with Aaron, so I'm sticking with my same argument you can reference 2 weeks ago as well. We're going to move on to...
I was going to say, you could say the same thing about Buck. He's not out there.
But the Mets are significantly worse.
But that's not the manager's fault.
Listen, we've had plenty of times on the show where you were ready to basically
Buck is a 3-time manager of the year, where Boone is on the hot seat after halfway through the season every single year.
Biggest payroll,
I don't understand how a bad 60 games changes the fact that Buck is a superior manager to Boone. And let's be real, it's not like Boone has more wins than Buck does in his time.
This year he has a lot more wins.
No, we did get a question. We actually did get a question out of our Twitch chat here from PF. I'm sure Joe and Corey know who I'm talking about. Asked if the Yankees exit again this year early from playoffs, is Boone gone? And I don't know. Boone just did sign an extension. I wouldn't think. Listen, if it happened last year, the Yankees wouldn't have re-signed him.
If they missed the playoffs, he's gone.
It depends. With all the injuries,
Joe. I mean, you can't put it on the manager.
He's gone.
I don't think.
Buck's not going anywhere. Buck's not getting fired.
Buck is much more likely to get fired than Aaron Boone is.
Absolutely not.
All right, this is not as rapid fire as I'd like. But first base, Mark Vientos or Anthony Rizzo. Corey?
If this was a week ago, it would have been Mets edge 100%, but that is completely flipped. Yankees edge 100%. I'm taking Rizzo over Vientos.
Do you know how many hits Anthony Rizzo has in the last week?
You know how many Vientos has?
I think Rizzo has 1.
It's Rizzo. Listen, I mean, just from a fielding standpoint and experience at the position, you can't pick Vientos. It's really kind of Vientos and Mark Canha right now, splitting time there. But you got to go with Rizzo here. I would take Rizzo on this team in this order in a heartbeat at the moment.
It's Rizzo, and I have nothing positive to say. So let's move on to second base.
Rizzo has 1 hit in a week.
Second base here. This is a tougher one, though. Jeff McNeil or Gleyber Torres. I can't say similar profile types, but the seasons aren't too far apart, especially when Jeff McNeil is a much better hitter than what he's putting out there. But Corey, what do you got between these two?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers head to head, it's almost a push. But despite the numbers, McNeil slightly had a higher average. I'm actually going to give the edge to the Yankees here because I think McNeil, for the most part, is not having the type of season we'd like out of McNeil. I mean, he's a guy hitting 3. Granted, you're hitting 320, hitting 3, that's awesome. But if you're in 270 with 1 home run, McNeil is not the same player right now. We can't say that on the Yankee side. I mean, Gleyber Torres right now, especially with Judge out, is the best offensive player on that team. So I'm actually going to give the edge to the Yankees here right now with Gleyber.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with McNeil here, and he's a plus contact hitter. We know that he doesn't have as much power as Torres, but at the end of the day, McNeil is a better field and second baseman than Torres, and he gives you the versatility of being able to play two other positions when you need to. I would rather have McNeil at second base for my team than Gleyber Torres. That's just me personally. It is close. McNeil hasn't been hitting the ball well up to his standard, but when they are both on their game, McNeil is a better offensive and defensive player than Torres.
I think I'll take McNeil. Gleyber just, man, defensively sometimes he falls asleep. He falls asleep. Last night, a ball was thrown into second base, and he's just like picking dandelions. He's had times in the past where he throws to the wrong base. I don't know. I mean, Gleyber, I think, has a ton of potential. I think he is. I think he actually has the capability to be a better offensive player than McNeil once you factor in everything. He can be. I'm not saying he is. But defensively, there's been too much asleep at the wheel. Give me McNeil.
I'm calling for the first push here. I think it's right down the middle here. You got a guy who is a former just defended the batting championship last season in Jeff McNeil. If we're basing off defense just in left field alone from the other night, I'd go Edge Torres. But McNeil is a much better defender at second base. That play last night with Gleyber Torres was just atrocious, Tom. And honestly, as a manager, should be considered to bench him to start the first game of the series tomorrow. At least that's what I would do. I mean, that was just
put DJ out there.
Play.
Yeah, I mean,
it can't happen again.
Yeah, I agree. I would get on board with that.
Yeah, so Torres, even at 253, 11 home runs, which is not really that bad for a second baseman. I'm going push. I'm disappointed with both these guys' plays because we know altogether these two are much better than what they're putting out. So I'm going push here. Third base, we got Brett Beatty or DJ LeMahieu. Corey.
I'm actually going to go push here as well. And normally I would have thought I would say Beatty, but the last couple of weeks, Beatty is not looking as hot as he did when he first came up. Not saying that DJ LeMahieu looks hot. I'm not saying that at all, but Beatty right now is in a little bit of a slump. I mean, he's only hitting 228 right now, Beatty, especially the last couple of weeks, not doing much. So I'm going to say an even push. It's more about Beatty's regression, though. It's not because DJ's hitting the ball.
Yeah, I'll go DJ on this one. I like DJ's bat. I know he has not been the same in the last few years as what the Yankees had originally signed. Beatty is still a little raw. He shows signs, and listen, this is the thing with rookies. You have some rookies that show great potential. We're going to talk about another one and come up and make an immediate impact. And we have some that are a little bit slower and have to find their way into the ball game and the rhythm of a season a little bit takes more time. So for me, it's DJ. I'd rather have the professional bat and have that leadership of being a veteran at this particular point than the rookie. So I'll go DJ on this one.
Yeah, you can give me Brett Beatty at this point. DJ is just mired in he's just pounding the ball into the ground. He's not playing particularly good defense at third at this point either. He's not a third baseman, frankly. I think if you I know we're just going by roster resource. I honestly probably would take Donaldson at this point because at least you know he's going to play a Gold Glove caliber third base. And you'll know what he's going to get from you offensively. He's going to pop some homers. He's going to strike out, but he's going to do that. So if I have that third option, I'll take Donaldson, which is saying a lot at this point. This is
Josh Donaldson, Giancarlo Stanton, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa are three candidates I would have thought would have filled the void of Aaron Hicks as the biggest albatross on the Yankees. It is DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu is the biggest albatross on the Yankees. He stifles what this team can do with their infield, despite having a shortstop that's hitting over 300, and you can't do anything because your touted shortstop isn't doing all that much right now on the big league level. That contract has hurt the Yankees so much, and it was one of those contracts that I disagreed with, despite LeMahieu being a top 3 finish in the AL MVP voting when he got the deal. DJ LeMahieu is a detriment to the Yankees now. He is no longer the player he once was. So yes, I'm voting for Brett Beatty here.
I can attest you were against that deal when that came out. I remember I was very pro that deal, and boy, I don't think DJ's been healthy since. Sad.
All righty. Shortstop. Keep it quick, boys.
Yeah, this is a no contest. I know both aren't really living up to the standards, but I'm taking Lindor. No contest.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought Rich
Tom?
thought Volpe should never get sent down, so I guess I'll just curious if he still thinks that.
It's changed. It has changed in a week. Yes. Believe it or not, it has changed in a week. I think it might be time. Now watching baseball games played, I think it might be time. But that is not the segment, so we're gonna keep it moving. We're head to head in the outfield. It pains me so much.
Oh, you got a mute button for a reason.
I hate my co-host so much now. But now the outfield. Where's the old guy I used to host shows with? I like him more. All right,
it's on his resume.
Let's go with the outfield here. Let's do a quick look.
Outfield, I'm going to give the edge to the Mets here. I mean, it might be a different conversation if Judge was still here, but the Mets actually still have their entire outfield playing right now. And Marte is starting to wake up, too, which is a big thing for that offense. He was really bad. He's actually almost at 260 right now, so he's trending up. I'm giving the edge to the Mets.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the Mets have 3 guys who belong in the major leagues in the outfield. That's more than you can say about the Yankees at the moment. And the Mets should have 2 all-stars between Nimmo and Marte in the outfield. They're not playing that way right now, but that's what they should be. So it's clearly the Mets. If Judge and Bader were there, we'd have a conversation. But right now,
we wouldn't have a conversation if Bader or Judge were there. It would be a slam dunk for the Yankees, frankly. It is the Mets, though. I do want to kind of raise my hand for Corey talked about accountability earlier. Before the season started, I said that IKF is someone who he shouldn't have a place on this roster because of him being the previous shortstop, and he's not going to be able to fill this super util role. I was wrong. He hasn't been great, but he's been playing defensively everywhere. He's been, doing the IKF level of offense, which isn't anything special, but I think he has been a positive for this team. So I want to own the fact that IKF he's been doing his damnedest.
The Yankee outfield is the Scranton Wilkes-Barre outfield last year, last month,
Yep.
last year,
last
year too, probably. But yeah, it's the Mets outfield. Come on. All right, now a little bit of tougher matchup. Alvarez has been one of the better offensive catchers in the game lately. Trevino, the All-Star last year, and still Gold Glove caliber defense. But Corey, what do you have in this matchup?
Yeah, no, I'm giving the edge to the Mets here. I've got to say Mets.
No, listen, the one silver lining that the Mets have this year is the fact that Francisco Alvarez looks every bit as the second coming of Mike Piazza for the Mets. I mean, he has not to go crazy, but he has that much power. He has 30 to 35 home run power. He is the slugger that the Mets have needed. The biggest question the Mets are going to face in the next year or two is, can you keep this kid a catcher? That's how good he looks. And he just turned 21, so it's Alvarez by a mile.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I don't think it's an edge situation. I think Alvarez is going to be the most exciting guy on the field for the next 2 games. He is, he's must-see TV, and as far as New York baseball goes at this point, Yankees catchers are good defensively. Alvarez has been solid defensively, and yeah, that bat is electric.
Man, it just seems like when he's on a run, he's just untouchable. You just don't see that in the catcher position anymore. So he's just going to be fun to continue to watch. So Alvarez is my pick here as well. The DH, God, Tommy Pham, Giancarlo Stanton here in a pitiful matchup.
I never thought I would say it.
Oh no!
This series, the answer is Tommy Pham. Stanton has it, and I would want to pick Stanton. Stanton hasn't hit. Tommy Pham's been ripping the cover off the ball the past 2 weeks. Stanton has hit nothing. Yeah. I hate to say it because I know Stanton is the better player, but it's almost to the point where Stanton's barely playable at this point.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna give a push. And again, I would have never thought I was gonna say this, but Pham has been hot the last couple of weeks. One of the better hitters on the Mets in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Whereas Stanton, we read through the numbers earlier in the show. I mean, he had that home run his first game back, and then all of a sudden, not the same. So I'm actually gonna give a push though, because I'm gonna give a little bit of respect to Stanton's history. But it's a push, and that's on the struggles of Stanton and the hotness of Pham right now.
I'll still take Stanton. He still can hit the ball hard. Sometimes he's pounding into the ground and then waddling the first base. But I think he can run into some homers. I'll take him. I'm not happy about it though.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean with Corey here and say push. Pham's been the better player lately. Stanton, I feel the bigger chance he's gonna run into something and turn a game over, and he hasn't shown that. And it takes him a while. Maybe his while is coming up, but I'm going push on. I can't pick Pham over Stanton with the way Stanton's played, but just knowing the threats there, I'm going push here. Starting rotation now. I got the 5 here. I'm not going to run through the names. You guys know the names here. But Corey, what do you got in the rotation?
If you're looking at this series alone, you do have the Yankees with the best pitcher of the grouping with Cole. But I'm going to give of the rotation as a whole, if we consider all 5, not just the 2 guys going for each team, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Mets. I know there have been a little bit of struggles, a little bit of up and downs, but even on the Yankee side, I mean, Cortez not looking like the same guy. He got hurt too. So I'm going to give the edge to the Mets, despite the Mets still not living up to their pitching expectations.
Yeah, I mean, just on paper, it should be the Mets. The Mets have had so much inconsistency. But on the back end of the rotation, you're going to take Kodai Senga, Carrasco, and McGill over Herman, Schmidt, and Vasquez any day of the week. And Severino hasn't pitched well enough to justify picking him over anybody else. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Cole over Scherzer and Verlander for now. But the next 4 guys in the rotation, you're all going to take the Mets guys, even if they have been inconsistent up until this point.
Yeah, same.
Push. Cole's the better pitcher between the 10 I just mentioned there before. But the Mets have the more full rotation. I mean, you're not going to be able to rely upon Clark Schmidt and Randy Vasquez. And that's despite Schmidt pitching well as of late. Actually.
Been good.
So
Vasquez is
I'm
good,
gonna
but
go push here. I'm going to go push. I can't choose one or the other. And you never know. Verlander, Scherzer could just snap right back into it as well. And that's already a better rotation. But for now, based on their performance and just Cole being as good as he's been, but the rest of the rotation being, hot garbage, going push. Bullpen to wrap it up. What do we got here, Corey?
This is the exact opposite of what I said about the starting pitching. The Mets, in my opinion, have the one guy I'd want to close the game the most in Robertson, but the unit as a whole is the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the hard part is if your life is on the line, you're going to take Robertson over anybody. But getting to Robertson is the problem at the moment. And it just seems that the Mets have 3 or 4 guys that are just pitching in the wrong inning for you. And I'll probably go the Yankees here. Although with my life on the line, I'd want Robertson. So I'm going to say push.
Again, the Yankees have the best bullpen in baseball. It's not even close. Clay Holmes has looked as good as he's been as a Yankee the past couple weeks. I will take the Yankees bullpen every day, twice on Sunday.
Best bullpen ERA in baseball still, despite the recent losses to the team. It's not been on the bullpen. The Yankees did lose an extra inning game yesterday, but you had the man for man on second base. So
the pitching's been good.
Yankees bullpen ERA 2.76. The second place team is the Guardians with 3.01. That's a full 15 points there. So 15 points there. But bullpen gets the edge. And that will do it for our head-to-head bit. So looking forward to doing that again a year from now, I guess, or our next Subway Series in 2024. Yep. Maybe we'll do it right before the next Subway Series. The Yankees and Mets do come back to the stadium coming, I think it was at end of July. So we might bring this back
like
in a month's time. In about 5 weeks. So, and with that, I actually want to lead that into a cool announcement for our show. Now, if you look at our ticker, you see the New York Strike Exchange debuts on Friday, June the 16th, 2023. I don't know why we needed the year there. Come on Instagram and Twitter. And it's not a bit that we're going to have on our show on a weekly basis, but for our socials, we're going to be doing a top 5 and a bottom 5 New York baseball players, ranking in all pitchers, offensive players. We're going to talk about the players that have been great for their team, and we're going to talk about the players you want to send on a rocket to the sun. So that's going to debut on Friday. Tom's got his hand up. Why do you got your hand up, you weirdo?
Can we have can we expand the bottom 5 and subtract from the top 5 for this week? Because I don't think anyone is worthy. I don't think there's enough worthy top 5 guys, and I think maybe there's like 2 top 5 guys and like 8 bottom
10 guys.
Yeah, a bottom 9, and then like IKF is like the top guy.
We'll
IKF and Tommy Pham.
Like best friends.
Discuss when we get a little bit closer to the rankings, but that debuts on Friday on Instagram. And as a reminder, give us a follow on Instagram at Empire State of Baseball, at Corey Favs, at JR Pugs, at Rich J Rivera, and at T Wospil for our personals as well. New York Strike Exchange debuts on Instagram and Twitter. But make sure to keep us followed on Instagram. Great jobs with the reels as always. Like I mentioned, Corey did a hell of a job filming his toilet last week after one of the Met games. I had the River Ave Rewind on the way back from the Staten Island Ferry Hawks game this past weekend. Shout out to the Ferry Hawks. Go Ferry Hawks. They lost 11-0, but they're a great organization and a lot of great guys coming out of there, including Homer Bush. And make sure to check out our Homer Bush interview back on episode number 40. And that was a lot of fun as well. So a lot there, but we're going to finish things up with ESB Games, my favorite segment of the night, which check out the host standings. And of course, I'm still in the lead there at 6. And we have a 3-way tie for second with Corey, Joe, and Tom. And for our non-hosts, a tie here with our guest spot and Riff 0302. So we're going to look at our chats with YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch and see if you guys can get the trick of the trade. So Corey, I know you had the trick of the trade this week on the Mets side. What do you got?
Yeah, we got a little bit of a throwback trade, but want to go back to the year of 2003, almost 20 years to the day on July 1st of that season. The Mets acquired Roberto Alomar a few years earlier and did not live up to the expectations. They ended up trading him over to the White Sox, received 3 players back from the White Sox: Edwin Almonte, Andrew Salvo, and the unknown is the last acquired player for the Metropolitans. And before we go into any sort of hints, we'll just open it up to see if any thoughts.
So this is 2003.
I mean, I'm going to probably start it with like a Robin Ventura.
Not Robin Ventura.
I was thinking, because of him coming back again. I don't know if he made like another stop.
I managed the White Sox.
The Mets did have a third baseman kind of come and go around this time in Todd Zeal, but it is not Todd Zeal or Ventura.
Hiding those comments.
Yep.
Problem is, I don't know if like Edwin Almonte or Andrew Salvo were like.
I will
not
say
Duan or Sanchez.
Not Duan or Sanchez. I will give the first hint here. It is a pitcher, and of the 3, he is the more I don't want to say he's prominent, but he is the more prominent of the 3, and he is a pitcher.
I would hope so.
I'm thinking of that 05 White Sox team. I want to think that maybe somebody was on that team.
Well, he
05.
He wouldn't be anymore because he.
It's the other way around.
From the White Sox.
Traded
Came from the White Sox.
Yeah, that's right.
Not Aaron Heilman.
Aaron Heilman's a good guess.
Very, very good guess, Core, but it's not Heilman.
Timo Perez.
It is not.
You said
Timo
starter.
Perez.
Oh my God!
I didn't say starter.
John.
I said pitcher.
John Maine.
Not John Maine. I know he actually pitched with our favorite Baltimore team right before the Mets got him.
Royce Ring.
It is Royce Ring.
Oh, Royce Ring.
It is
What's
Royce.
Royce Ring?
Oh, Royce Ring. The final hint I was going to give is that he played his entire career in the National League, with the exception of his final season with the New York Yankees.
Royce Ring.
Tom over here researching who the hell Royce Ring is.
What is a Royce? The man has a negative career WAR.
Royce Ring played for both New York teams, ended his career with the Yankees. Didn't pitch much at all, but figured a little Subway Series
15 ERA with the Yankees.
Yeah.
in
Just
5 games.
The Heilman got me thinking. I thought
Heilman's like a guy.
Ring.
Royce Ring. This is worse than
Lord.
the other whatever.
Lenny
Giacomo. Lenny Harris. Jesus. Royce
All right, well,
Ring.
Joe climbs into second place
Joe
now.
doesn't get any points for that. That's
I will say my guy has a significant prominence, and he's not the Royce Ring caliber player. So here we go. The Yankees made this trade in 2016, August the 1st to be exact. They acquired Nick Green. Eric Swanson, familiar name. He's now a reliever with the Toronto Blue Jays. He kicked around the minors before sticking with Toronto here, but he was with the Yankees. And Dylan Tate, who's now a member of the Baltimore Orioles. I think he's still with the Orioles. I know he was a reliever with them at least last season. And the Rangers acquired just one player in this deal. Who was that player?
Lance Berkman.
It is not Lance Berkman.
This is during that Yankees sell-off year.
That is correct.
Was it Vernon Wells?
It is not Vernon Wells. Nobody wanted him.
I'll say who'd want Vernon Wells at that
I
point.
thought he played for Texas. I thought that was...
So the sell-off year, but this is after this is maybe at the deadline, I guess. Deadline could have been a little later.
Position or hitter? Pitcher or hitter, excuse me.
This is an offensive player.
Offensive player.
Instead of promenades.
I will say this person came up in our show earlier this year as part of a big segment we did.
Is it McCann?
It is not McCann.
Is it Beltran?
Cervelli?
It is Carlos Beltran, yes.
Oh.
And of course, with Subway Series prominence, Beltran playing for both of the Yankees, he is going to be, of course, our answer for today. So, yes, it is Carlos Beltran. Went in that deal.
I barely
for the
remember
Yankees.
him playing in Texas.
Yeah.
And I look back, and I guess this is a deal where it didn't really work out for the Yankees. None of these players made their debut in pinstripes at all. Again, Swanson, probably the most significant name out of the 3 that was acquired by the Yankees. But yeah, Beltran went to finish his career up in Texas, or was it Texas? Then he finished up his career in Houston, I think it was.
Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, so Beltran, who was voted as the ESPWAA Hall of Fame voter all the way back in the all-season series. And you can check that episode out on...
Definitely got to go check it out on YouTube. You have all of our full episodes. You have some shorts in there as well, different clips that are great segments as part of the bigger shows. So a lot to check out on YouTube. So go ahead, go to our page, like, share, and subscribe. If you want the link, check out our link tree. You'll find that all over our social media, all the links there, including our YouTube links. So again, download the YouTube app today, like, share, and subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. But gentlemen, I know we went a little over today, but a great show, a lot to discuss with the struggles with the Subway Series, but we do have another big episode next week, a little bit of a milestone for us, episode number 50. We're half a century deep. We'll be living on our typical time slot next Monday, June 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. But gentlemen, It was a pleasure joining you this evening. And any closing thoughts, starting with Rich?
Oh, yeah. No, thank you all for joining us out in YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter land. We appreciate all of the comments and participation, especially on our game segment there and our head-to-head. Was glad to bring that segment back. So thank you to all the viewers, as always. And thank you for the Mets and Yankees for making us go through this pain over the last week for us to not even be hyped up for our own Subway Series starting tomorrow.
Thank you to all the followers reaching 2,000 on Twitter. Thank you to any of the new listeners. Saw a couple new names in the chat. Great to see. Hope you stick with us and check out some of our old episodes. Leslie over here giving us some love, so we love to see that. But let's see what happens the next 2 days. Get a little bragging rights. Hopefully it gets both teams going with a little energy. I know last year we had a great Subway Series game, a couple of good games. So hoping for the same this year.
Thomas?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I just want to, again, thank everyone. Thank all the fans for the interaction. Great week. Hopefully a great Subway Series. And we will catch you next week for episode 50. Take care, everybody.
Uh,